Welcome back to our daily football show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now back to Between the Sidelines.
Yes, it is Between the Sidelines, and you're tired of hearing us gab back and forth. So let's bring in a real expert, James Coe, NFL analyst, nice enough to join us here. Thank you for the time, sir. So let's open up with the team that we just previewed ourselves, the Kansas City Chiefs, breaking in Patrick Mahomes. His era begins this year. But, James, that schedule is really tough, especially at the beginning of the year. Plus, you got to play the NFC West throughout. It seems like about an 8-8 year is in the cards for the Kansas City Chiefs, in our opinion. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, 8-8 sounds about right. Just kind of given the volatility at the quarterback position, we're not exactly sure what we're going to see, right, from Patrick Mahomes. We know he's got a live arm. He's going to be able to go downfield. And I love the fact that they're surrounding him with downfield targets, the fact that they acquired Sammy Watkins to go along with Tyreek Hill and even Travis Kelce, the tight end position. That pairs very nicely with what the Chiefs got going on. Their offensive line, I think it's solid. You know, I don't think it's anything to write home about, but overall, a pretty good unit. I think offensively, this is a team that's going to pile up some points. But again, just a young quarterback like that, you just don't know what you're going to get.
I thought Patrick Mahomes looked really good in Week 17, James. But I mean, how much does that really mean? And when you look at the first 6 weeks, the Chiefs' schedule, JVT, one more time, we'll reel off the first 6 games.
At the Los Angeles Chargers, at the Pittsburgh Steelers, home versus the San Francisco 49ers, hit the road, go to Mile High to take on the Broncos, come back home for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then you make the trek to Gillette to take on the Patriots.
Yeah, that's a tough first 6 weeks, James. I mean, what can you reasonably expect from a guy like Patrick Mahomes when you have those 6 opponents in the first 6 weeks?
I got to be honest with you. I mean, you look at that schedule, that is brutal. I don't know if anybody's got a tougher schedule in the first 6 weeks of the season. If they escape with a 2-4 record, I think that's a pretty realistic expectation, given, again, just the names on that. Oh, my goodness, that's an unbelievable start to a schedule. So I think 2-4 is probably realistic. If they went 3-3, I think they'd be pretty ecstatic.
All right, so let's talk more about that division because I kind of feel like it's wide open in a sense. I know a lot of sharp football minds aren't crazy about the Oakland Raiders and John Gruden's first season back, and Gruden might need some time to get things figured out. And Khalil Mack, his absence could be a big issue for the Raiders. We'll see what happens there. But let's talk about the Chargers because they lost one of their star cornerbacks today. Jason Verrett is out, and it's already started. The bad luck with injuries, losing close games. The Chargers seem to be a snake-bitten team, James. They've lost Hunter Henry, the tight end, for the season. Now Verrett's out.
Right.
How big a blow do you think this is to the defense? And I talk about Hunter Henry and his absence, what that's going to mean to the offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're in talks, I guess, reportedly with Antonio Gates as well. You look at that, the defense. They, I think, addressed it a bit. Derwin James, I know, doesn't play the exact same position as Verrett. And don't get me wrong, man, when Verrett's on his game, I mean, he is a shut-down corner. That being said, I think the back line of the defense does have a lot of depth on it. And then, obviously, we know about the bookend defensive ends there as well. So it's a team that needs a little bit of help in the linebacker spot. But I think if you look at the overall depth, top to bottom on the defensive roster, I think they're in a great position, man. The injuries for the Chargers, I just can't wrap my mind around it. I really can't. I mean, the number of just freak injuries that the Chargers sustain. I mean, you think about Keenan Allen, busting what was a spleen or a kidney or whatever. Well, I mean, these are freak injuries. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, it was brutal when I heard about the Jason Verrett thing. It's a wide open division, as you guys mentioned. I don't really believe in Denver. I think Oakland actually is going to be better than a lot of folks, a lot of sharps anyway, think. I really love their offensive line, and Marshawn Lynch on the back end of last year was truly one of the best running backs in the game.
I'm a little bit torn on the Raiders at this point, but I do like Denver a lot. Let's talk about Warren Sharp at Sharp Football tweeted out some numbers on the Chargers, who have fielded, he said, arguably the most talented roster over the past 5 years. During that time frame, the Chargers have the third most games lost to injury, the fourth worst record in one-score games, and one playoff trip, and one win versus the Bengals. Warren Sharp tweeted, the Chargers are either the unluckiest team ever or a serious top-down issue with management and coaching. And also he tweeted about the Chargers' one-score losses. No team in the NFL, James, has more one-score losses over the past 10 years than the Chargers. So it just seems like this team has, like I said, either whether it's losing close games or injury luck, the Chargers seem to be on the wrong end of things. Are they getting off to the wrong foot here with these injuries to Hunter Henry and Jason Verrett? And are we making too much of it? Because there's going to be injuries with other teams too. Can they overcome these injuries?
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to overcome it. I think overall on the offensive side of the ball, we talked about the defense. I really think the defense has enough depth, especially in the secondary, to, I mean, at least, mitigate the loss of a guy like Verrett. You can't just eliminate it because Verrett's such a great player. I know we've seen such a small sample size with him, given the knee injuries and now the Achilles. But yeah, when he was on his game, he certainly seemed like he was one of the best corners in the league. Now, that being said, I think they played pretty well defensively last year. They add a guy like Derwin James. I think they're going to play pretty well in 2018 as well. On the offensive side of the ball, I think the loss of Hunter Henry obviously hurts them considerably. But Mike Williams, I think, is going to take a step forward. You got a guy like Keenan Allen. Phillip Rivers getting a little longer in the tooth, but still, I mean, come on. This is a guy that's probably, still a top 15 quarterback in the league. So I don't really hate the situation for the Chargers. To be honest with you, I think they're the front runners to win the division, and I think it's their division to lose.
Chargers are favorites to win the division. I think minus 160 is the number.
Right,
throw up that graphic if we have it on the AFC West futures. But the
Westgate's got them at even money.
Even money?
Yep.
Chargers to make the playoffs, I think, are yes minus 160. Is that correct? But anyway, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, right there in that pack behind the Chargers. Now, you do like the Raiders. Let's talk about that because Khalil Mack's absence, is that going to be – how much of an issue could that be during training camp, and when do you expect to see this resolved? Because reportedly, Khalil Mack, who you could say is the best player on that team, definitely on that defense, has not even spoken yet with John Gruden.
Yeah, I don't get that story. That's a weird story. I don't get how you're going to be a $100 million man and not reach out to, again, if not the best player, certainly one of the two best players on your roster. So I'm a bit confused by that, unless there is, I mean, is there, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't get how that happens unless there's a serious contract dispute. But again, at this point in his career, can there really be a serious contract dispute? I guess I'm confused by that all. Look, defensively, they weren't very good last year. As a matter of fact, they haven't been very good for a few years now. But I think John Gruden is probably going to have these guys going in the right direction. When he makes comments like, hey, I want to bring it back to 1998, I mean, I know that it was widely derided, and I get that. But that being said, what is he really getting to? What's the spirit of that statement? I think the spirit of that statement is, hey, he wants to get back to power football. I think he wants to get back to a better, solid defensive base. And from the history that we have of John Gruden, I know it was a long time ago, I think he's at least going to be able to get those guys moving in the right direction, both on the ground in terms of the run game and defensively as well. So Khalil Mack is going to play a huge factor in that. If they are not on the same page from a chemistry standpoint, that is a big-time issue for the Oakland Raiders.
The yes-no playoff props at the Westgate. The Chargers, yes to make the playoffs, minus 160. The Raiders, no, minus $2. So the Westgate odds makers, I know they are not very high on the Raiders.
Well, James, you mentioned in passing when we were going over a couple of these teams that you weren't a big fan of the Denver Broncos. So if you could expand on that a little bit, because I think the Broncos seem somewhat volatile. Like they could be, I think, very good. I really like the addition of Chubb in the draft, and I think that defense can be phenomenal. But, of course, you have the questions at quarterback and whether or not that's really going to work out the experiment in Denver. But why are you not so high on the Broncos, who are 40-1 over at the Westgate to actually win the Super Bowl?
I think you meant to say Royce Freeman there as the draft pick at the running back position, but it's a situation there where, look, Case Keenum, I think, is a slight upgrade. I don't think he's a huge upgrade at quarterback, quite honestly. I think they have a real problem, especially at the right tackle position. It's just a revolving door there. I mean, the offensive line theoretically will get better as they get healthier coming into 2018. But overall, I see a roster bereft of a lot of playmakers, man. I mean, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, they've seen their better days. Case Keenum, again, I think is a slight upgrade at quarterback. I don't think he's a significant upgrade by any stretch of the imagination over what they were kind of sort of trying to run out there last year. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bigger Trevor Siemian fan than I should be. I don't know. But the bottom line is the offensive line to me is not that's going to be the problem spot to me. You know what I mean? Defensively, they've lost a lot of players. Defensively, they're older as well. I look at I mean, I want to hear from you guys. I don't know who is a playmaker.
I got a bunch of. I think
I don't see one.
Cortland Sutton's going to be a playmaker. Top draft pick. They got Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State. 2 wide receivers right there who they can throw in there can make plays. I think Royce Freeman's going to be that type of guy. Talk about tight ends, Troy Fumagalli and Jake Butt.
Yeah.
I think they've done a lot to upgrade this offense in the past, I want to say 6 months, going back to the draft. And defensively, don't overlook what the Broncos did in the draft with Bradley Chubb, Josie Jewell, the linebacker out of Iowa. This is already a good defense. And when you look at the numbers of the Denver defense from last season, it does not look that impressive. And it's mostly because the offense stunk and put a lot of pressure on that defense, made it look worse than it really was. So I'm actually high on the Broncos. I think they could win that division, especially if the Chargers keep getting struck by bad luck. And that seems to be the theme with the Chargers. Now, I think it's the most fascinating division in football because the Chargers are the clear favorites. You got John Gruden in his first year with the Raiders. The Broncos, who I think could be the most improved team in the league, or certainly one of them, and then the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and how that experiment's going to work out. What do you think, James? I mean, is it the most intriguing division, the toughest division? What do you think the toughest division in the NFL is?
I don't think the toughest division is going to be the AFC West. And there are a few divisions out there, namely, I think about the NFC North that really come to mind. Certainly the NFC East is going to be another bear as well. But when I think about the NFC North, I mean, you think about Aaron Rodgers coming back, getting healthy, Green Bay there. Chicago's made a significant upgrade on the offensive side of the ball and probably at the coaching position as well. John Fox was absolutely terrible. But, Detroit's still there. I think they've made some decent improvement. Minnesota adding Kirk Cousins. That, to me, my goodness, that is a tough division to win in football. The AFC West is certainly intriguing, mostly because there's so many question marks. I think if you were just to look at the rosters on paper, I don't see how the Chargers don't win 12 games. I really don't. That being said, they seem to find a way to lose a lot of close ball games, man. So you're right. The AFC West wide open, and I'm intrigued, fascinated by how that is going to play out during the regular season.
James Coe, NFL analyst. Find him on Twitter at JamesDCoe. James, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate the insight.
Anytime, boys.
You got it. All right. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We have news out of Pittsburgh about Big Ben. Things are looking up for Ben Roethlisberger. He has made a change, and it's working for the better. This is here on Between the Sidelines.
This is Between the Sidelines, the daily football show that gets you ready for all the action. You can listen to VSiN on SiriusXM Channel 204. Watch us online at VSiN.com and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
I'm Brent Musburger.